All right, we're back, and it's COMP391 Intro to Gaming Simulation. It's week 12, lesson 12, part 2. And what I want to talk about now is some stuff with Blender again. So we've been working on this 2D game kind of unsuccessfully over the last little bit. And some piece parts were done weird. One of the things on the 2D game side is I have a couple of assets here that I put up on GitHub. One of them is this the hero assets, and the other one is these assets that we found for the enemy, right? So let's look at the hero assets again, and I'm going to adjust this stuff like I showed you before with a program called Texture Packer, right? So let's bring up Texture Packer. Now again, I recommend some kind of, if you're going to do 2D stuff, Texture Packer is a really good program to have because it creates sprite sheets for you. And Blender and Unity use sprite sheets for 2D as well as Unreal. So if you take a look at Texture Packer, you notice there's some outputs for Unity. Here's a Unity 2D texture 2D sprite sheet, so which is good. It produces all the files you need for Unity. So I think it's a good solution. As well, they have other package exports, like for example, if you want to do HTML5 CSS, you can also do it there. They'll produce sprite sheets for that, as well as Easel.js and Create.js, which I use this a lot. This is what I do a lot of it for HTML5. And if you notice, there's all kinds of other platforms and game platforms, like for example Phaser. If you want to learn how to use HTML5 games in Phaser, it's a great platform. Pixie.js, Sparrow and Starling if you're doing things with ActionScript and Flash, and I've done stuff with that as well. Sprite Kit if you're programming on iOS, native Sprite Kit, which, you know what, I don't know if I would recommend it at this point. I think it's better to do it in Unity and export it if you're going to make a mobile game. That's my take on it. Or Unreal. Both produce really cool on iOS and Android games, and they look awesome right now. And you know, you're not writing in a native Android or iOS. You're not doing it in Java or in Objective-C Swift, but they're awesome. They really do well. And then, of course, there's also the, if I want to make a 2D sprite sheet, I can do that for Unity or Unreal. Here's for Paper 2D. So there's a bunch of different outputs for Texture Packer. Here for today's lesson, what I want to use is just it doesn't matter for which one. There's not one for Blender as an example, right? But it doesn't matter. Even if I export things for Easel.js and Create.js, I'm going to ignore the XML file that comes with it, the JSON file. I don't need the JSON file that comes. There's two files that get generated from this program. One of them is a PNG format, a PNG file we saw last time, and the other one is a JSON file that comes along with it. I don't need those. So I'm just going to pick this one here and click Create. So here's my project, right, as an example. Now this is my data format, but I don't care about the data format because I'm not going to have a data format for this one. And what I want to do here, and again I highly recommend, is drag and drop the animation that I want to do, right? Example would be this. If I want my idle software, here's my idle. Our character right now, he's pretty basic, right, our character. Now, when I did this idle animation, by the way, I want to show you, these all should be, in order for you to make it used with Blender, all the animations that you download and install, the textures, have to be shaped identically. There cannot be a different shape for each animation. If you make it so there's different shapes, not going to work with Blender. It'll be a pain in the ass. We found that out, right? But if you do it the same, right, everything is shaped the same, you're good. So let's do it for the first one before we do the run sequence, because that's a little bit more difficult. Let's do it for the idle animation. So I'm just going to pull in all this idle stuff. We've got like 24 frames of idle animation where the character actually does one of these. He kind of starts breathing in and out like this. Like he's waiting for you to do something, right? So until you move, he's going to do one of these. He's going to just breathe in and out, right? Okay, so let's bring that in. So here's my idle animation. Okay, now there's a problem for this. Now, a couple things. One is I got to watch to see if my frames are in order. That's the one thing. So they're not right now. So I want to do forced word align. That's the first thing I want to do, right? So word align means that it should be in order, right? Now it's not. Let's do the next piece. Down here from an algorithm perspective, I'm going to use a basic algorithm, right, for our packing, right? And that's the next piece. And the other one is when I use a basic algorithm, I can sort by not best, but name. So when I do that, when I sort by name, now I go 1, 2, 3, and if you notice now they're all in order. That's really important. One more thing.
Best is
Best does different things. Best packs it so that it's the best from a memory perspective, the way it packs it, right? So that's one. The second thing is we want to, from a trimming perspective, see where it says trim, right? I can trim none. If I don't trim none, now, if you notice, they seem to be almost identical in size, right? So I'm not trimming. I'm not going to trim the object or pack it down or whatever. I don't want to do that. There's some other things too here. Border padding and shape padding, inner padding, all this stuff. I don't want to have any of this if I'm doing it for Blender. So I don't want any kind of padding whatsoever. Now if you notice, I don't want this either, right? I don't want this kind of shape. And we're going to fix this in a second. Same thing with shape padding. So I don't want any kind of shape padding at all. So I'm going to reduce all that so it's all one big line, right? So trim crop threshold is okay, but all these are zeros as an example. The pack where it says best, that's fine. It doesn't have to be good. I don't want a multi-pack. From a scale mode, as an example, I don't want it to be fast. And again, there's other kinds of sort orders you can choose and so on. I can make sure that this thing is squared, which I don't want. If I really wanted to make it squared, I could do that. I'd like this packing. This will work fine for me, right? And what I really want to do is make sure that everything is exactly the same. I don't want them to be, I don't want them to be Look, here's our shape outlines, just to give you an idea. And take a look. They all look identical from my shape outlines. Here are my shape outlines right here. Okay. So I'm going to turn my shape outlines off. I just turn them on so you can see that they're all the same. And now I want to export. So I'm going to go publish Sprite sheet. It's going to ask me where to publish it. I want to put it inside the same place that I have my documents. I'm going to go to my desktop. And I'm going to go to 2D game. And inside my assets, I have my hero. Inside my hero library here, it's called idle. I'm going to call this hero idle. So hero idle, that's my animation that I'm going to download and install. I'm getting also this JSON file that I don't care about, but that's okay. I'm going to save. So it packs it up and it gives me this file. And when I go back over here to my folder, right, for this animation alone, I get this hero idle ping file. Right? Now there's many ways to do this. You could also do this in Fireworks by yourself, by hand, and so on. But if I double click on this thing and if it brings up Fireworks, see if this is going to work for me today. Fireworks has been giving me a little bit of problems over the last little days. I noticed that I got this hero idle, sheet, and if you notice, it's identical. They're all nicely metered from one to the next, right? So that's what I need, this hero idle texture, right? Now I want to incorporate this texture, right, as the texture that I use for my character. And let's go back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this off, and the same thing with my bullet texture. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to quit Fireworks for a second, but I'm going to open up Blender and I want to include this new hero idle texture, this ping file. I want that to be the one that I use for my texture. So let's see if that works. So I'm going to go into my Blender. Here it is. And here's Blender. And now I want to, if I was going to include this here as my texture, and this is what I'm going to do, this is the process I'm going to use. So let's do it on this block here for a second. I'm like starting over almost, right? So I'm going to kind of zoom in. So let's say I want to put this texture on this block. We're not going to do it. We're going to do it on the other game that we made already. But for now, it's a good practice to try it here first. So what do I do first? Well, first remember, what we need to do, whatever it's on, I need to establish some kind of material. Material, again, provides shading, support, color, all that kind of stuff to the object, right? It also gives me a little bit of physics material, which you're going to see in Unity, right? So let's say, as an example, here's my material. I want to change this thing to a color, so I want to make my material green. I'll just rename it now. And I'll change it. I'll use the diffuse albedo, right? That's what I'm using here. This part here, and Unity calls it albedo for the diffuse text, the diffuse color, right? To kind of make it so it's green, right? So this is the property that we're going to have here. The specularity we're going to leave as is. That's just the default. It doesn't matter, right? And I'm making it green so we can see the object right now, right? So that we know this is the player object. And I'm going to rename this thing to player. Okay, so here's my player object. Okay, good. Now I want to make it transparent because I don't want to see the actual texture at all. I'm just using it to color it so we can see it. That's why I'm putting it on. So first two things. I want to move to Blender game. I'm going to go into my N for my numeric menu, and I'm going to turn on GLSL mode. Okay, this is really important, an important piece here. All right, so now that I've got my shading and my lighting properly, I want to move from here into a texture mode, so I can actually see texturing and lighting. At least that mode we have to be on. Down inside the bottom here where it says transparency, I want to turn transparency on, and I want to dial down my alpha to 0. So now we have just this outline. Okay, if I click away, if I deselect, if I reselect, you can't see it if I deselect it. It's completely invisible. Right? All right, this is cool. I like where this is going. This is the first step. The next step is I need to have a new texture. So I'm going to go to my texture, and I'm going to say my new texture. Right? I'm going to change it from the type from none. I'm going to change it to image or movie. So this is the next step. Okay, cool. And I want to open up a sequence. I'm going to open up that file, that long, crazy file, right, that we just made with a bunch of different images on it. So I'm going to open up that file. So I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to go to 2D game, and I'm going to go to assets, and I'm going to go to hero, and I'm going to download this hero idle ping animation right here, right, and open it up. It's only 48K. All right, you see that there's all kinds of stuff here that you cannot see, right? This is okay. We still need to go in here, and what I want to do is I want to unwrap this thing, but we're not going to do it here. What we're going to do is we're going to go into UV editing mode, right? This is where we're going to get this stuff done, right? Or is it animation mode? I think it might be animation or UV editing. Let's just, what was that? UV. And in here, I want to tab into edit mode, right? Now this is the one piece I need to do. So we're editing this piece, right? Now over here, I want to kind of access this hero idle animation, which is just what it looks like right now on the left, if you notice. Okay, so here's my hero idle animation. I've got everything selected here, right? So now what I want to do is I want to unwrap this hero idle animation onto my cube. But I only want it to be on certain faces, not on every face. So that's the first piece I'm going to take care of. Let us unwrap, right? And we're going to do a smart UV unwrap, right? That's the first piece. And we're going to say OK. And as you can see, right, right here, and if I'm going to move from here into a texture mode, right? My problem, the reason why I don't see it right now is because we've got our texture turned off. The actual light is not bouncing off the texture. So let's go back into, it's already been selected. And if you notice here, over here on the left side, this is what our texture is going to look like. I'm going to zoom in there in a bit, right? So let's go back into our regular mode, so our default setting, right? And we're going to go into the texture side. I'm going to scroll down until I see this piece and turn alpha on. When I do that, right now, I'm going to see this alpha transparency. If I move from here into material, right? So here's my material, and if I zoom in, right? If you look at it, it's there. Like it actually is there. The reason why we can't see it is because it's trying to play everything in there, right? We need to tell Blender how to partition this sprite, right? So that way you don't see the whole thing, right? All you see is that one image, right, that's in there. Okay, and if you notice it says generated flat, we can't leave it there. We have to go to UV, right? We have to use, there's the first thing, and then we have to move to that UV map that we've created, all right? This is the thing. So we do see their UV image, there it is right now, right? It's just partitioned across different faces, and we're going to take that to get rid of that. So let's go back now into our UV editing mode here. And on this side, we're just going to use this as a preview. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn this, we're going to toggle this off over here. And we're going to give more room to this side, because this is the side we really need to use. So I'm going to kind of just pull this one and from here a little bit over. And I'm just going to move this one so we can see the front face. So what I'm going to do, take out my nifty keyboard. That's only for this kind of work. And this has saved me this little thing time and again. Because if you don't have a real keyboard and you have a Mac and you don't have a numeric keyboard, it's a pain in the ass. All right, so we're going to turn the keyboard on, and once we do that, as you can see, I'm going to press the 1 button from a front perspective because this is the perspective that I want. Right? If you notice, from a top-down perspective, I see that the top part, here's the top part, is the Z direction. Now on Unity, we have a Y up. I talked about this before, a Y up configuration as opposed to a Z up configuration. So when we export stuff from Blender or Maya or 3D Studio Max into Unity, we have to make sure that it's a Y up configuration. Otherwise, your model will come in kind of whack, right? We don't want that to happen. So again, let's go back into this mode, and we're going to go into orthographic mode. So all we want to see is what the texture is going to look like in orthographic mode. Okay, now the other thing is, if I just rotate here for a second, back into user ortho, and if I go Control Tab, and I select my faces, and I select my first face, you can see, if I zoom in here, right, on this side here, that my face right now that's the face that I really want, this front face, to kind of cover my object. Okay, so the first thing is, what I want to do is I want to select all, the face that I've got, and I want to press Control P so that it expands to fill the space. Now there's a couple of issues. If you notice on the left, my object is upside down and backwards. Look, here it is right here. See that? Take a look. So he's upside down and backwards, like he's actually flipped over. So let's go back, and he's like over here. So one thing I need to do is I need to change him up a little bit, which we'll do in a second. The other thing is, if I'm not wrong, we want to have all these things running. I want each of these frames, right, to kind of show up here on my object, right? So that's the first thing I need to do. I need to expand this thing so that I can include all this stuff. Now, right now we know that I want to click on this from a game properties perspective. Take a look. There's another panel we never saw before, we never looked at, which is called animated. See this animated panel? We want to turn this panel on. Right now we only have a 1x1 tile, if you notice. I want to increase this to the number of tiles we have. We know we have like 24 tiles or something crazy like that, right? So let's expand this face so it fills up the entire sprite sheet. So I'm going to deselect all. I'm going to use B-select to select my edge, right? And I want to I'm going to kind of scroll out here so I can see the entire sprite sheet. If I can do that. It's pretty long. There it is. There's the end. I want a little bit more. Okay, there. So there's my B-select mode. And what I want to do is I want to use the G button across the X-axis, right, to kind of pull this all the way to the end. And then I'll zoom in down there and make sure it's perfect, right? So G along the X-axis and pull it all the way down. And if you notice on the right-hand side, we got some weird distortion going on. That's okay. And I want to scroll in, right? Now I'm going to move into that side just to make sure that we're fairly accurate in terms of where that's going, because I don't want it to be an overlap. Because if we mess this up, if there's a bit of overlap over here, then it's going to come up when we move things over. So I'm going to press G along the X-axis again. I'm just going to move it closer to that edge, just like we did when we built our skybox, if you remember correctly. All right, so then again, I'll zoom in again, move this over, zoom in again, until I get maximum zoom. I want to be able to get maximum zoom because if I can, then I can see that I'm fairly accurately on this side. I think it's the best we're going to get. All right, let's zoom out again, and then we're going to go way over here on this side just to make sure that this side is okay, and the bottom and the top, I want to zoom in to this piece right here, and make sure that there's nothing else I need to do on this side to fix my side up. And I think we're fairly good on this side. I think we're fairly good on the top too. Let's take a look. Top is good, bottom is good. So this whole face has been expanded to fill my whole texture. All right, let's zoom out again. So there's my object. All right, why is it not showing up on this side? Because it's all compressed. So this is where we start doing this kind of stuff here. First, we need to change our this object here. If I hover over it, this color space of the image or movie, right? Right now it's sRGB. We need to move this off of sRGB, which we found out. We're going to move it to VD16. That's the first thing. Okay. Now we get to specify how many tiles. We're going to turn on the number of tiles. Right now we don't have tiles across the y-axis this way, but we do have tiles across the x-axis. And from what I counted before, if I go back to the files, I think they're 24. Yeah, let's go. Idle 1 to idle 24. Right. So there's 24 different tiles. So we're going to go and we're going to move this tile count up to 24. So we're going to go bump, 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 bump. We're going to keep doing that until we get to 24 tiles. If you notice, it says it only allows me to go 16 for now. Well, this is okay. If I can try and go into more tiles, why is it stopping me? What do you think it's stopping me for? VD16. That's why, right? If we move off of VD16 and go into some other format, and we will. We don't go to RGB. If we go to raw or none color or linear, as an example. Here's linear for a second. I can continue to move. I should be able to continue to move up the line beyond 16 tiles, right? So try another color, non-color. Yeah, it doesn't allow me to. But that's, so far, it looks like our tile count is limited to 16. The degree of repetition of the tiles, right? But even if we left it at 16, what I want to do now is I want to start from 0 and go to 15 from an animation perspective, right, to see the animation. So here's our 0 to 15. It won't allow me to go beyond this piece, by the way. Okay. If you notice, we can also increase our y-axis if you wanted to tile across the y-axis. Right now we don't have multiple tiles on the y-axis, only one across the x-axis. Okay. So if we press the play button now, right, so if I go into tab mode, and if this is fine, we press the play button, right, what we should see is an animation. See how it's moving? It's upside down and backwards, but that's okay. We're going to fix that. All right, so that's kind of, in fact, the first thing we're going to do, right? So we're going to move from one animation to the other. We definitely have, it looks like we can't handle more than 15 tiles. That's good to know. 15 animations. What was that?
The jump sequence. It has only 14.
Which one?
The one you used.
Which one should I choose?
No. The animation you choose.
We only made 14 or 15, right? The jump sequence, yeah. But I think if for the idle, we can cut it down. If I don't want all 14 tiles or whatever, and if I want to go back, if this is truly the limit, 15 tiles or 16 tiles, which I've never heard of a limit so far, doesn't mean that I'm wrong, right? I think it might be that this particular one. There's different aspects. If I go linear, one thing that won't support is RGB. Once I do RGB, if I press P for play, it's not going to give us the right animation. It won't cut across properly. And it won't allow us to go beyond the 15 anyway, right? If I click away animated, then it takes that animation thing away, right? The which one? Oh, this one.
The drop down.
Where? Sorry, I'm not following.
Above game properties.
Up here.
Here, no, in the numeric panel.
Here. Oh, this.
Yeah.
Straight for pre-multiplied. Yeah. And you think it can go more? Yeah. It won't allow it. If I go to VD16 again, even with pre-multiplied, I can only go so on. What?
No, the tiles. Can you try the tiles? Yeah.
Which one?
Tiles. Below animated.
Below animated here, tiles, and then increase the number of tiles.
No.
Yeah.
Because it only goes till.
Yeah, it won't work. So if I go to non-color or choose something else, and I increase the number of tiles, usually we can go higher than this. It might be also a limitation of our world, right? For example, our world only has X number of frames per second, right? Which also might be the cause of our limitation, right? So that might be an issue. You can try it out. Maybe there's going to be a fix for it, but that's one of the issues we're going to have. So just to make it easy, I'm going to go back into Texture Packer and take some of those images away, right? Because I know that they work for up to 16. So I can take these 17 to 24 away, right? And I'm just going to press delete, right? And now this is my new texture. And now one thing that I have a problem with here is that it's going to try and pack this thing in multiple lines, which I do not want, right? So again, I can choose my height property so that it matches the height property of this image. And if you notice, my height property here is it's 67 by 65. So I don't want to go higher than 67 or 68. So if I was to make this, let's say 67, right? Here's 67, right? Then it only does one height. So it kind of takes those images into play. All right, let's save this again. So here's my my new image. I'm going to publish my sprite data, and it's changed my hero idle image to something else. Good. All right, now when we go back into Blender, however, we need to restart this whole process. So I want to kind of unlink my data block for a second. That's the first thing. And if I want to get rid of my hero idle animation, I need to load it in again. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to go to desktop, and I'm going to go to reload my 2D game assets, hero, and a hero idle now is smaller, right? So I'm going to press open image. There it is. Now my whole image is there, right? See, there's now everything is encompassed with my my way of doing it. I also have to go into, just because I've changed it, I've got to go into my default mode, right? Here's what it looks like right now. And I got to make sure that in my, what I'm loading up here for my image, right, my hero idle, is the one I'm going to load. So I'm going to go back and just reload my hero idle animation. Right, so that's right. Okay. Let's go back and flip it. Now, what would you think the issue is? If you look, I can see it here. It's almost like I got to flip the normals on this thing, right? That's what it looks like. It's a problem is for whatever reason, and that's totally cool for me. I don't care, right? So how do I flip the normals? I got to go into edit mode, and I got to go into mesh, and I'm going to go into normals, flip normals, which is totally fine for me. Now that should flip the animation to the other side, right? Theoretically, didn't.
Did you make it shadeless?
Was that? Oh yeah, shadeless would be good too, right? So let's just go and undo that change. Thanks for all the help, right? Because it's just there's just so many options, right? So let's go back into material, and you're right. I should probably make this shadeless, or else we won't be able to see the little guy, right? But we need to flip them around. So how do I do that? Now there's a problem. If I go back to my animation sequence, so I'm going to go back to compositing, UV editing, right? Here is what he looks like now. I can't really flip him around. That won't do, this part. I need to actually flip this around for it to be proper. So which means I got to just go back to unanimated, and I'm not going to use alpha for a second. Actually, over here, right? Oh, I won't use tiles. So here's my tiles, right? And I want to kind of select my object here. Right, here's my object. So I want to select just that one object. So I'm going to go, Control Tab. Go into actually, how about tab in, Control Tab into my faces, and then deselect all, select my one face, and that's where it looks like. Right now I got to flip this whole thing at a different angle. Now if I turn on my animated, and if I turn on my tiles for a second, and now if I flip it over, right, this whole thing has to flip over the other side. Now it should be pretty clean in terms of doing this. I'm going to rotate, right?
Select all.
Oh yeah, that would be good, eh? Select all, rotate across the x-axis. This is what I want to do, right? Kind of rotate them over on this side. But I got to rotate this cleanly, and it looks like it's going to be a full 180 backwards, right? So I'm going to go rotate across the x-axis 180, and then enter. And that's perfectly rotated now, right? So I can see this guy. There's a problem with this, though. I still got the other objects in there as well, right? So let's turn off animated. Let's turn off tiles for a second. And let's go to the other tiles. So I want to select this one, right? And I'm going to zoom in there for a second. And this is a problem. If you don't do this, then you're going to have a problem later on. I'm going to make sure that it appears somewhere. I'm going to kind of select all. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to pull it somewhere where I don't see it, somewhere in there. And I'm going to shrink it down really small so that doesn't give you any texture. That's all I'm doing here. Same thing for this side here. So I'm going to select this one, do the same thing, grab it with the G key. First of all, select all, grab it, move it over here, right? Scale it down so it's really small. Right, so I've done those two sides. I don't want to do this side. That's the side I want, right? Top side. So I'm going to grab it, select all, grab it, move it down here, scale it down so it's really small. Okay, and the bottom, same thing. So I'm going to grab it, right? Select all, use the G key to grab it, move it down to an area here, and then scale down so it's really small. Right, cool. And now the back side, right? So I'm going to grab this one, right? Select all, grab it with the G key, move it down to another area, select, kind of scale this down so it's really small. All right, almost got everything. I think we got most of them. Let's make sure that all of them are done, right? I don't think I handled this side, if I did or not. And we just check all the sides, right? Because I don't want to have any problems when I animate. I don't want to show my other sides when I animate. Okay, good. Let's turn animation back on, right? And let's turn tiles back on. So it gives this black look now, right? And this tile here, what I want to test it with my animation. Now, right now it's a non-color. I want to go back to VD16 because that's the most brilliant one, it looks like. And I need to have this pre-multiplied on. I need to have my animations go from 0 to 15. And again, I can't increase this number because there is no more tiles. It won't support, for whatever reason, more than 16 tiles, which is perfectly fine. You know what? Even 16 tiles is too much, honestly. You want to go in something small, like 8-tile animation or whatever is fine too, right? This is just that animation was bundled with 24. Okay, so let's look at this. So here's my 16 tiles. Let's run this thing. I'm going to go back into tab into If you notice how it looks like it's just one solid image now, we can't actually see the square at all. And I'm going to press P for play, right? So now we should see
Increase speed.
him going down. I don't know. Let's take a look. This is the actual animation. Right, so this is a speed of 1. So he actually is moving all the time. Now this is way too slow, so we're going to increase the speed so that it's 15. Let's see if this is too fast. Right, so we're going to press play. And you see there's a bit of a jump.
Because of no, incomplete.
It's not completed yet. It's not completed.
In
It jumps, yeah. But this is okay. The idea is the same. So he's waiting for him to, he's kind of waiting for you to do something. That's what he's going to do, right? So that's this tile animation. All right, what about if I want to put another animation on the other side of the cube? So I want to put one here, and this is what we're going to be doing with our hero, and one over here, right? That's what we're going to kind of do, right? So I'm testing it here in this thing here. So once I've got my proper tile set up, like I just did 16 tiles, as an example, I know how this works, all this stuff, then I can test it in the game, right? And I want to go into the game right away. All right, so let's try this out. So we're going to go back into default mode. And what I want to do here is I need to create another texture, another material. That's what I recommend. You can have the same material in different textures, that's no problem. But let's try this out. So here's my texture, right? And I want to add another texture underneath here. I'm going to say new. And we're going to call this texture, by the way, this will be the idle texture. Let's mark this one. This will be the walk texture, this one. And I want to deselect all, right? I'm going to go into edit mode, right? And what I want to do is I want to kind of indicate that this one and this one is where I'm going to apply this texture, right? This is the texture that's going to be applied. So that's where this is going to be. Okay, so I got my walk texture. Bear with me while I do this. All right, now here is where we actually can apply if I was going to apply a new material, right, which I don't have right now. Here's my material, the same material I'm using right now. I can apply it on these other surfaces over here and over here if I had another material. Right now I don't. I only have one material. I only have one texture. So two things I got to prepare. This is what I want to do. I want to prepare by going into this again and creating a walk animation. Now luckily my walk animation is from 1 to 15. That's nice, right? So it's not more than 16. I've got less than 16 tiles, 15 tiles. So I'm going to select all these, right? And I'm going to go into my my texture packer again, and I'm going to create a new file. So I'm going to go, let's just file, new project, and we'll do the same easel.js project again. Here it is, right? My new project. And then I'm going to keep this one open for a second, just from a settings perspective. So I know I need all these things. I know that it's going to be probably something like 67 tall. I know that. I know I want to turn on force word aligned. I know that I want to go from max rect, right, to basic, right? So that's what I want to go to basic. I know I want to go from best to name. That's what I want to do. All the same settings that I had before, right? And all these settings got to be 0. So 0, we're going to put this as 0. All this is going to be 0 because this is the way we kind of already set this up. So there's no point us doing it all again. And then the trim has to be none. Those are very important pieces, right? Otherwise, we're not going to get everything the right size. Okay, now I can probably get rid of this. I don't need this anymore. I'm not going to save this either for this example because I've already got my texture that I need. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back into here, and then I'm going to take my walk texture and drag it into here, right? So now this is my walk texture. And we should be able to see things in alphabetic or in numeric order. So 1, 2, and if you notice, they're the exact same size. All the tiles now, they're not varying in size. They're the exact same size. There's no trimming going on, right? There's extra space on the left and the right so that it's going to work well. It's not going to be like it was before for us, right? Okay, so let's publish this Sprite sheet now into the same hero folder, but now we're going to say hero walk. Hero walk. All right, let's save this out, and we're publishing it in, and we've got our animation. We're leaving this up for a second, and now I'm going to import this new one in here. So I'm going to go back into open. So this is the one for the walk animation. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to go into my desktop, and I'm going to go into my 2D game, into assets, into hero, and open up this hero walk animation, which is 47K, and open it up. Now if you notice, it's trying to put it on my main thing here because it's checked on. See? Now I don't want to do that. I'll leave it checked off for now for this particular thing. It's part of my animation. If I want to delete it, right, I would have to get rid of it. So I want to get rid of walk. It's gone, right? So I need to put some kind of other material that I want to use on these sides. And let's just make these sides, instead of green again, we'll make it a new material. So I'm going to say new material, right? I'm going to make it new. And again, it doesn't matter. We'll leave it diffuse the same, the default material colors and everything else. But one thing I do want to turn on is turn on transparency and turn my alpha channel right down to 0. So let's put this all the way down to 0. There it is. And now when I go to, we'll do the same thing. We'll make this also shadeless. It has to be shadeless, right? That one there. And I also want to make it so that it goes here. And when we load up our new texture, right? And again, because I've already loaded it up here, here's Hero Walk. This is the one texture I want to use for this material. Correct. So this is my walk. This is my walk material, right? And if you notice up here, right, I've got material. I'm going to call this, we'll call this green 2, whatever, something else. Okay, I want to assign this material to those sides. This is where it's going to be assigned. Those two edges, here and here, where this material is going to be assigned. So I've got this material that has this texture, walk 01, right? And if I want to rename this thing so it's walk, I can force it. I don't mind. That's what the material is called. It right now is using UV, but there's no map. I'm not going to assign a map, but I'm going to go into compositing mode again, or UV editing mode. And if you notice, these are the two sides I have, but I want to load in my Hero Walk, right? And for those two sides, this is where they are, right? So I'll move in. And what I want to do is the same kind of idea, but let's load in one side at a time. And the one side I want is this one, this right side, right, which is this one. I want to do Control P, so it takes up the whole thing, right? And I'm going to go unwrap, Smart UV Unwrap Project, right, or just unwrap. Let's make it unwrap. There we go. So that's where the texture is going to be, right? Now, why isn't it showing up? Any questions around that? If I go to UV, right, and if I look at, I'm looking at Hero Walk, this is good, right? And this is not showing up over here. Why? Well, we got to go back into default mode for a second. Go back into default mode, and if we go back into default mode for the material itself, I got to go back here and turn alpha on. So now we see that on the side, right? Now for this side here, if you notice, it's got to be flipped, right? So this side is correct for this side, for my left side, but for my right side, I want to flip it so it goes on the other side. All right, so let's check this out. So I'm going to go back into UV editing mode, and there it is. There's that right side, which we got to flip. So how do I flip it? Well, I got to scale, right, -1, right? So I'm going to go scale, right, across the x-axis, -1. So now he's flipped over to the other side. See? This is good. This is what I want him to do. So when he's turned this way, he's going to run this way, and when he's turned this way, right, he's going to run that way. Now they're going to be identical, right? You're going to see this in a second, so it doesn't really matter. All right, so this is one thing. So it's not really complete. I want to scale this thing out so it takes up the whole side again. So this is the same thing we did last time. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go deselect all, use B select to select the side, kind of zoom out here so I can see the entire object of all of these 16 frames, right? And then go with the B selected, go grab across the x-axis and throw this out all the way to the edge of this side. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in again so I can get right in there and make sure that my B select mode, so I'm going to grab across the x-axis and move it closer to the edge, and then get really right in there, maximum zoom, so that way I'm going to press grab across the x-axis and move this piece so it goes right pretty much on the edge. As close to that as we can get anyway, without busting my eyes. What was that?
X coordinate is 296.
Exact? I guess it was just my left eye that did it for me, right? If it's exact. So I'm going to select all this time. That's all. I want to click on animated. And I want to click on tiles, and I want to increase the tile count to as much as I can. And I think it'll only do 15 or 16. We're going to go 15 because that's the exact size, right? And now when we do that, our start animation starts at 0, and my end animation ends at, they won't let me to go beyond how many tiles I have, 14, see? And then it can't be straight, it's got to be pre-multiplied. We did that too, right? And we can't do sRGB, we're going to go to VD16, right? And now, let's try it. And now when we go P for play, if I go tab into normal mode, P for play, I should have a really cheesy animation that only goes at 1 frame per second. This is bad. So now we have 14 tiles. Let's move it so that the speed is the same as the number of tiles. For now, 14 is good. We might have to increase that speed. And press play again. So now this is the walk animation. What do you think? Huh? So you got 2 animations going, right? By the way, I'm going to deal with this one in a second, right? But the reason why you have this one, and I think might be that speed might be too slow. We're going to move this up to 20 for a second. So if I start animating now, if I press P for play, right, that's pretty good. Maybe that's even too slow. Let's go to 25 or 30, let's say. All right, so I'll go to 30. And I'll press P for play. Right, that's pretty good. That's probably a good speed. And the same thing goes, if I'm going to do that for this one, I might as well change the animation for this one later on. But for now, let's leave it as is. So this is the animation. Okay, cool. So I've got my animation. I know my settings, 14 and 30. I know the number of tiles. Well, I want to do the same thing for the other side now. So I'm going to unclick this one, go into edit mode, and select this one now, right? This face, and do the same thing for this face. I'm going to go scroll all the way to this side where that face is that I've made small, and scroll right in there, right? And then press Control P to size it up, right? There it is. And what I want to do is I want to deselect all, click B for B select mode. And if I go to grab across the x-axis, right? If you notice it increases. If I put 1290, like you're saying, then it kind of spreads it out across the whole thing. And now I have the other side. But he's rotated this way. This is the way it's been done. That's just the way. So I have to rotate this whole thing. I got to change this now again. So let's undo that change. So we go undo, right? And I might as well, since I know that's what's going to happen, I'm going to rotate this by 90 degrees. So I'm going to rotate, select all, rotate 90 degrees, right? There it is. And I've got a bit of thinking to do on the top and the bottom, right? Because it's not quite big enough, to be honest, right? So let's zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. So yeah, there's a bit of space on the top and the bottom. I got to change this up, so I'm going to go just a little bit of changes here. So I'm going to deselect below the top. What's that? I can try, but maybe it will work, maybe it won't. Control P. That's pretty good. Thank you very much for that, for snap to basically. And now I'm going to select my B-select mode and go 1290 up here. Okay, there it is. So now he's upside down still. So that's not what I wanted. All right, I want it to go the other way around, right? I could scale.
-1.
I could scale across the y-axis -1. I could do that as well. I just want to be very careful because otherwise he's got to be in the same rhythm as this other one, or else you'll see one that's slightly off from the other one when you're looking at it straight on, right? So you got to be careful there. Okay, so I could scale or I could rotate. What I really want to do is rotate. So I rotated the wrong way is what I did. Instead of 90, it should have gone -90. So let's undo those changes. So there we go. So let's, and if I was to expand this thing now, if I go to 1290, just for a second, so see where we are, right? Oops. I meant if I go to Control B, or B select mode, select this side, and then click 1290, just to see what it is. So he's upside down. I want to rotate him minus, so rotate across the x-axis -90, and then again deselect all, Control P. I wonder if that Control P messed me up. I wonder if it messed me up though. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I think Control P it realigns everything, resnaps everything too. I think I can't do Control P on this one. Let's see if I'm talking about if I'm right, because I went -90 now. So I need to still do another minus 90. That's okay, so I'm almost there. Bear with me. So Command Z, okay, and then select all, rotate across the x-axis, minus 90 one more time, right? Select all, Control P, right? And now deselect all, B-select, grab this face, and go to 1290, because that's the number we want, right? See, it didn't still quite grab it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Control P is messing me up. It's playing with me, right? So how do I do this if I want to do it right? I want to rotate across the whole thing. Looks like right now 180 degrees, right? So let's rotate across the x-axis 180.
Oh, select all.
Let's select all and rotate across the x-axis 180, and now we're good. And we still got pretty good coverage. Let's just check, make sure that it's right. Right, there we go. And scroll in. Okay, cool. So we got those things going on. I know I need my speed on this tile here. Right now we have 15. My speed is 30. It should work on both tiles now. So let's try this out. So just go P for, tab out, press P for play. And now if you notice, I can't see the difference. I can't see the other one from this angle. Let's look at it from this side. So I'm going to press from this angle here. I'm going to press P for play. And if you notice, I can't see the other angle because of the back face culling. I won't be able to see it. All right, this one is looking pretty bad now. So if I deselect all right, tab in, select this one, right? I'm selecting a different face, and if you notice, my speed is only 15. Just because I want to keep the same as this one, I'm going to change this to 30, just to be the same. And if I go tab out, P for play, looks like he's pretty hyper if I do that. So I don't know if I like that. So tab out, tab in, go back to 30. I think maybe even slower, like a 10 would be okay, because that's not good. Tab out, press P for play. 10 is too slow. Maybe 12 or 14. Huh? 18? I will do what you tell me. P for play. That's not bad. It's a bit of a jump, and I couldn't get all the tiles in there. But that's okay. But the idea is that when you turn them now, right or left, we have a model, right, that we can use, that we have the means, we know how to use that character now. And we're going to do the same thing. We incorporate this stuff into our model for our 2D game. All right, so we've got our models, we've got our pieces. Now we're going to replicate this. Now there's something we could do. I could bring this player in as is, but then I got to bring all that programming in place and everything else we did over and over again. And I really don't want to do that. I'm sorry. Right? So I'm gonna leave this one the way it is. It's a good one for learning. We know how to do it now, right? And I'm going to bring the same technology in to our 2D game. We're going to do it one more time, right? Now the reason why I did all this is because you see it in two parts. One, if I was just going to do a basic model like this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to animate this thing. If I move it around, I'm moving from one side to the other. This is what's going to happen. So you can see when it's running, it runs one way. When it runs this way, it runs the other way. And you're going to see my character change my animations with my thing. And we're going to have the final product. The other thing I could do is I could save this as its own, and there's not a lot. I could bring it in as another cube altogether. Like name this as player 2, and copy across my my logic bricks to save myself a bunch of time. I could do that. Right. So I may want to try and do that for my thing, but we have to do a little bit more preparation in order for us to do that, save time. So let's go back into my default, and in my default mode now we've got our edges, and what I want to do is I want to make sure I'm out in object mode, and I want to go here, and instead of static I want to go character, right? I want to put that on, right? So I also want to use collision bounds for my character, right? Just a regular box collision type. So I want to have all my stuff built in. In this part, this piece here, for my other stuff, right? As an example, if I go back into if I tab in, I have two textures, or two materials, and each material has its own texture. So here's my idle texture. I definitely want to bake these in. So I'm going to kind of click that on, right here. Right, because I don't want to lose that texture right now. Okay, then I want to do the same thing. So I'm going to go back to my material, click on the second texture, go in there, bake that in. Right, so if I don't do that, then my textures won't come with me, and that would be bad. Right? All right, now I'm ready to save my Blender file. So I'm going to say File, save, and I don't want to put it under where Matt's head is. That's not good, right? I want to put, I know Matt. I don't want to put that, I want to put it under downloads in my 2D game. Downloads. I want to put it on a desktop under 2D game assets into Hero, so I can use this as something I'm going to import into my other game. And I'm going to call this thing, I'm going to call it Hero, just by itself, my Hero blend file. Alright, so here's my Hero. I got to be very careful though, because I have two objects. I have a player object already, right? So I'm going to save this thing. I'm going to rename my player object to player 2 or something else. So right now it's called player, and I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call it Hero instead, and save it again, just in case I named my other one player. I think I may have. Okay, cool. So I've got this one done. Let's close this one off. I don't need this one anymore. I don't want to do all that work again, right, because I'm lazy. And I want to go back into my 2D game and back out from the Hero into the main, right? So here's my main animation. This is what we've been working on the whole time, right? And by the way, here's my villain. This is my enemy. So I've got player and enemy, and I want to copy everything. The only thing I don't have is my animation, right? I've got a bit of an animation for the character. I'm not sure if you can copy animations from one to the other two. That's one thing we haven't thought about. So take a look. So now I want to import my new object I just made into the scene. How do I do that? Well, I got to go File, right? And I'm going to go Append, right? And I'm going to go into my assets, into my Hero, and here's my hero.blend file. Now, in here, it asks me for what do I want to append. If I select everything, right? If I select everything, this would be bad because, well, I could do object and texture. I don't want my world. My mesh is okay because it's a cube, right? I want that one. So I could select objects that I want. Like I want my cube object, right? And I could select my object, but how do I select only two things and not the whole thing? If I do this, I select everything. Can I deselect?
You can use beast.
Can I use deselect to deselect my other things? So for example, I don't want my world, you know, as an example. I don't want my my scene. I want my object mesh. I want my material. I don't want my lamps. I don't want my, or images I want, right? I want that one. I don't want this one. I don't want this one. And I don't want this one. So those are the ones I want. And press Append from library. Okay, now it gave me a bit of an issue, right? Do you notice that? Well, one thing is I've got my player selected, so I want to deselect all. That's really a bad thing. And the next thing is I want to try that again. So I'm going to go File, Append. Let's try one thing at a time instead of all those things all together. Let's go into Object and get my Hero, right, and Append from library. Here's my Hero. And when I do that, I think this is my guy. It's my new dude, right? Because this is called, well, that's player, isn't it? Let's go and see if I can get Hero. Here's my Hero. So that was player, that was Hero. There it is. So this is good. I want to get from, now I think it's from, when I do a copy, I do from this one to this one or from this one to this one. Do you guys remember how? So I'm going to go into Logic Bricks. It's my logic editor. And I'll bring this guy up here. This is my Hero. And now notice he has nothing in there. So I'm going to go from here. Here's all his logic. If I copy from here to here, and I go to Object, Game, copy Logic Bricks. No, that's not the right way. Undo. It's the other way around. So I go from here to here, right? And it's a little bit counterintuitive that way. Object, Game, copy Logic Bricks. That's good. It's got my logic bricks. Now I need to have my animation. Because in here, I also have in the player, I also have this animation. So what do I do?
The animation there.
What was that?
Right click and
Click it and delete it?
Mm-hmm.
No.
You can click.
What I want to do is can I not just copy it from here to there? To my Hero? Well, by the way, this is cube 4. We're just going to call this player cube. Just to rename it. Here's my player cube. So am I in edit mode? That's
I
bad.
think you can link also.
Sorry?
Link animation data.
Link animation data from my object?
I think.
Let's just see. Let's see if you're right. Animation.
I think it's control L or something.
Love that you know those things.
Making it, yeah, control L. Animation data. Oh, you have to select that one.
So let's go do this, right? And then do the same thing. So object, make links, animation data. Right? Now what if I kill this player now? Will
It's gonna destroy
the links.
But
So we're going to take this player, we're going to put it in another
you can
layer.
go to this animation and delete the users.
Well, from here?
Clear the link.
Oh, here, clear the animation data, right? So we're going to, over here, object, make links. Or would it be under animation?
No, it's, what are you going to do now?
I want to clear the animation from this one, for my player. Actually, this is the easiest thing to just, I want to avoid this thing. I'm going to put it on another layer. I'm going to click M, oops, not N, M, and we're going to move this one to another layer. Bye-bye. Right? And now we have this player data, which is going to be here. It's going to start off here. Let's try the play and see what happens. And why did it go green? Well, because maybe we put it from a different angle. Yeah, there. Oh, that's why. Now, why is it not showing up now? Well, this is the problem of trying
you
to.
have to go to game properties and change that animated thing.
All that stuff again? I thought it would retain all that stuff. Come on. I thought that would be for sure retain everything.
You only copy mesh.
Let's see. No, I got all those things. Look at the walk. Here's my hero walk and my hero idle. I got those things.
Game property.
Yeah.
No. What is that?
It's not on.
No, yeah.
That sucks. That's almost like doing the work over again anyway. Right? So let us select that for going to tab in. Well, it's good. At least the size is all there. So that's good. That saves us a little bit of time right there. So I'm going to select this one, deselect all, select my one face. And if you, oh no, it's in there. Look,
Yeah, it's in there.
VD16. If I go P for play, sorry. If I go tab in, P for play. How come it's showing me it that way? No. Am I unwrapped properly? So this is the stuff that I don't know. When you do this from scratch, we got problems, right? Because this is what it should be. So here's this animation data. Let me go for the other side. So if I go, tab in, clear this one, there it is. Yeah, it's all retained. Look, it retained it all. But I wonder if the how it looks from an object perspective, because I haven't really got that. So I'm going to go back into default mode. Sorry, a bit of stuff going on. And make sure this is all correct. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. My UV map. Gotta be careful there. VD16. So actually, it's all here, right? But we shouldn't see this weird thing here. We're seeing what it should be like, right? Here's my hero walk 1. I wonder if I gotta redo it to hero walk, or maybe those are what I called it before, walk and idle. My two different. I called it the same name.
Yeah.
Walk. So if I go, sorry, just curious. If I just go like this, yeah. See that totally eliminated that. So that's not good. So I want to go in from walk to walk 1, walk 001. That's the one that I need, but it's not animating. And of course, you know, so much for saving time, Tom. That's why I didn't delete my guy. See, I didn't delete my guy because you never can tell in this crazy whacked out world what happens, right? So let's just delete this thing and go back to my other thing here, my other dude. This is my dude that I originally made here. and press M to copy into this first layer. Oops. Yeah. That's not what I meant to do. M to copy into this first layer. And now he's back. Anyway, I can't finish this off because of time constraints. But what we got now, we know the secret on how to animate stuff, right? We press play, and when we press this way, he'll animate in different directions. The reason why he's not doing it right now is because we haven't got all that piece, all that data in there, and that's part of the issue, right? And the reason why we couldn't see it we moved him off screen to the other side was because the camera is paired to the other guy. The camera was paired to the other guy. That's why. And I should really unfortunately, have to do all that UV editing again. So what I have to do is go in here again and change the UV maps to the new UV map and do that whole animation stuff again. But at least you guys know how to do it. So if you're going to run 2D animation, this is how it's going to be. And the same thing goes for my scarecrow, my enemy. He's going to have that same stuff in here on both of his faces. So what I'm going to do, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, is by next day, so day 2, before we go into the Unity stuff, I'll have those 2 textures completed, and if I want to bring anything else with us into Unity, we can do that. In Unity, we're not going to do a 2D game. We're going to do some other stuff. But as a preview, again, I asked you to, so I'm going to stop this thing right now, and we're going to X out of here without saving anything. No, because I don't want to mess things up. As a preview, what I want you to do for next day is, again, we're going to do Unity next day. Right, so let's just get in there, and if I go to my Unity, it should be here. Let's take a quick view of what this would look like. So here's my Unity. I recommend you download it. My version is 5.12 F1. That's the way I'm doing it. I'm going to do a new Unity project here. And when you do Unity projects, just as a preview, and again, this is the last 5 minutes of class, but what the hell? Right? I'm going to call it whatever I want. So let's say, I know that's how it is, right? We'll say this is COMP391 lesson 12, part 1. And I'm going to create my project on my desktop, right? I'm not going to import any assets or anything like that. Just do this. So let's see how this looks. Take a look. So when I do it in Unity, when I've created this project in Unity, I get this look here. I got a couple of windows, and again, I've set my inspector up to look like this. You could certainly drag and drop this so it's part of the same scene. It's very flexible in terms of the way you make it, scene or game. This is how normally Unity comes across. Okay, you might see your scenes like this. So a couple things to note about Unity. What do you see immediately when you look at Unity? Anybody? Well, one thing is you see the default skybox that's in the background. That's one thing that they have in Unity. The other thing that you have here is that you have this perspective. See Y up? There's Y up mode, but you can actually switch perspectives by clicking on this little gizmo right here. Right? So if I go down, I want to look from below or up. I can also choose perspective or flat mode, right? Or perspective mode. So if you notice, that's perspective mode. The little sign there. See it changes? That's ortho. And then click on it again, that's perspective mode. So that's one thing you need to know. Unity, what it does, it doesn't use the left mouse button too much for selection. What it does is it uses the right mouse button for moving. If I'm using my right mouse button. If I use Command or Alt, if I use Alt, I'm actually panning in or out of the scene. So I'm kind of zooming in or out. Right? If I use my other button, right? So I'm using my right mouse button here. All I'm doing is I'm panning in and out. And if you notice, you can also, on the left, if I click this object here, I can also move stuff around. So on the top left corner is all the stuff that we normally did with Blender, where I did things like movement, rotation, all this stuff on the top is right up here. So let's quickly add a new block. So I'm going to go create 3D object, cube, and I'm going to add it into my hierarchy. Here's my hierarchy. To zoom into this cube, you need to use the F key, and the F key zooms you right in. So here's my hierarchy, and again, if I want to rotate, I can certainly do it this way. I could zoom in. I can do the same thing that I normally can see. And on the right, if you notice, when I've inspected, if I click away, if I click onto this object, so here I'm clicking my object, I can see that I can move it in three-dimensional space like normally, like we do in Blender. Everything the same. But on the right-hand side, take a look. on the right-hand side, you see that there are a number of properties that we can access. And by the way, a lot of these properties are available in scripting. Everything that you see here, like isTrigger, material, center, size, all this kind of stuff, a lot of these properties are the same properties we access in C#. So we're going to talk more about this and how to import stuff into Unity on Friday. So please come and see that one, because I think it's important that we transition away from Blender. Remember, because it's not just a Blender course. It's Intro to Game and Simulation. It's Intro to 3D. It's really what it is. And let's talk about Unity a little bit, Unity 5 on Friday. Now, if you don't have access to Unity 5, you can certainly use Unity 4, which is installed in the machine, the school machine in front of you. But I highly recommend you download and install Unity 5. It is a free download or for personal use, so we can do that for us. And that's it for me for this day.